Why would anyone in their right mind use a text-based editor in 2022? Aren't we past that? Well, hopefully by the end of this video, you'll know enough about Vim to use it, and then you can decide for yourself. After a 75-second backstory on Vim, I'll dive into the basic navigation and commands to help you get up to speed as quickly as possible on Vim. This video is intended for absolute beginners, but in making it, I learned a bit myself. So even if you've used Vim before, you might find something interesting too. In 1976, Bill Joy, a computer engineering student at UC Berkeley, who later became a co-founder of Sun Microsystems, was trying to get some work done in the existing editor, Ed. Frustrated with Ed, he stayed up all night for a few months and wrote VI so he could get some work done over his 300 baud modem. And by the way, 300 baud is 300 bits per second. That's right, bits. That's about 8 English words a second. That is the context in which VI was created. That being said, VI is still heavily used today, some 46 years later. Arguably, it remains the de facto editor on Linux. Sometime later, additional improvements were made, and so Vim, short for VI Improved, was born. Ubuntu 20 comes with VI installed by default, but not Vim, so first make sure you have it installed. You can do this by typing sudo apt install vim. You can see I already have it installed. Once installed, you can start by typing vim to enter the editor. Vim has 4 main modes: normal mode, command mode, visual mode, insert mode, and replace mode. You can go between modes, but you have to go through the normal mode to get there. So if you're in insert mode and you want to go to command mode, you go from insert back to normal, and then from normal to command, or vice versa, from command back to normal, and then from normal to insert. From normal mode, you can enter command mode by pressing colon, and then you can type in a command. In this case, let's type in Q for quit, and then press enter. Now we're back out of Vim, back to the command line. So let's go ahead and open a file. To open a file, just type vim and then the name of the file, and we'll open the file in Vim. Now, in normal mode, you can move around with the arrow keys up and down, left and right. And you can use page up and page down. And there are a number of other keyboard commands which you can learn about later that let you move in smaller increments by word or by line and so forth. Half a page, a whole page, a single line at a time, and so forth. Insert mode is for making changes to the file. So to go into insert mode, press I on the keyboard from normal mode, and you'll see it says insert in the lower left corner. Now, you can still move around with the arrow keys up, down, left, and right. And now if we type, you can see we can make a change. Now to go back into normal mode, we can press escape and still move around with our arrow keys. And let's say we want to exit, but we don't want to save those changes. So now that we're in normal mode, we can enter command mode with colon. We can type Q to quit, but before we press enter, let's add exclamation mark to tell it we want to discard those changes. Now when we go back into our file, we see that none of the changes that we had were saved. Now if we wanted to make a change and save it, we press I to go in insert mode. You can type something and then go back into normal mode by pressing escape, colon, and we can write the file with W. That's the command to write the file out. And you'll see it says that data.csv was written at the bottom of the screen in the lower left corner. If we make another change and we want to save it and quit at the same time, we can press escape to go back into normal mode, colon for command mode, WQ for write, and then quit. And it'll both write the file and quit. You can see our changes are still there. Now sometimes you want to open a file as read-only. Let's go ahead and exit out of here. Now if you wanted to open it read-only, you just add the -R command option, and when you open it, it will open it read-only. You can see in the bottom left corner it says read-only. In Vim, you can search for things forwards and backwards, and your searching is case sensitive. So to search forwards, you can push the / button in normal mode and then just type in whatever it is you'd like to search for. And it'll jump to the first occurrence of that text. If you hit / again and press enter, it'll search for the next occurrence. And you can keep going searching for these keywords over and over and over again. Now, if you want to search backwards, just use the question mark instead. So we'll search for the same term as before, Intel, but this time we'll search in reverse. And each time I press question mark and hit enter in normal mode, it will just go back to the previous until it wraps around. If it gets to the beginning of the file and we hit question mark again, it'll wrap around, and in fact it tells you that search hit the top, didn't find any, and so it continued at the bottom of the file upwards. So let's go ahead and exit out of this read-only mode so that we can make some edits. Now you can exit out of Vim and come back in. That's one way to get out of it, but we can also go into command mode by pressing colon and just type set NORO, which is short for no read only. And then you'll see it gives you no command, but now if we press I to go into insert mode, I can actually make changes. Now let's go to the top of the file. Escape will get us back into normal mode. We'll do colon, and if you type in a number, it takes you to that line number. So let's just type 1 to get us to the first line of the file. Now, we've already talked about editing this. Let's say we wanted to delete a whole line. You can do that from normal mode by just pressing DD. Deletes an entire line. Now, if you wanted to paste that line somewhere else, you could move to where you wanted to paste it, and then Shift capital P will paste it into that location. If you wanted to copy the line, then you can press YY for yank, and then you can go to a new location and press capital P to paste. So that's cutting and pasting. Now if I want to delete it and leave it, well, I just don't paste it. So DD will delete the line and DD will delete the line. Let's go ahead and save this. Now if I want to, I can just hit :W and save the file without exiting. Just like jumping to the beginning of the file with :1, you can also jump to the end of the file with $$. So let's get into our command mode. And we'll type $. That takes us to the end of the file. Again, :1 will take us to the beginning of the file. And in fact, if you type :100, it'll take you to line 100. We can turn on line numbers with set number command. Now you see the line numbers shown on the left-hand side of the window. So now when we jump to line 200, you can see it puts us right on line 200. Or line 375, it jumps right to line 375. This is incredibly helpful when you're programming because you'll see an error message on your screen and it'll tell you which line number you're on. You can just enter into your C++ file directly and type in the line number that you want to go to and then see what the problem is. Fix it, save it, and you're out. So let's say that, instead of using full screen here, let's say that we had a narrower view. You can see that it automatically right now is set to default to wrapping the lines onto the next line. If I wanted to turn that off, there's a command to turn it off. So you say no wrap, and wrapping is off. Now if I arrow over to the right, it scrolls all of the columns over so that I can see more text. And if I scroll to the left, it scrolls everything over so that I can see more to the left. To turn it back on, set wrap. Oftentimes when you're editing a file, you need to look back at the console screen, but you don't really want to exit Vim to see what was there. Maybe there was a file name you needed from the screen and you forgot what it was. Well, to see the screen, you can just hit :! In command mode, and it'll take you back and let you see the screen. In fact, the exclamation mark lets you execute commands. So if you wanted to, you could actually do escape !ls, and it would actually list the contents of the current directory right here. To get back in, just press enter. Now let's say that I've made a mistake and I've accidentally deleted some lines that I actually didn't want to delete. Well, to undo a command in normal mode, just press a lowercase u, and it will undo the last command. And you can keep pressing U to undo previous commands, and it will continue to undo those commands. If you wanted to redo the command, you can do Control-R, and it will redo what you previously undid. Let's go ahead and undo all of my deleting and leave it the way that it was before. Now let's say you want to search and replace a bunch of text. So let's say that I'd like to change all these email addresses that are Bloomberg to Punched Tape Media. So we can do that by doing the command S and then put in what we want to search for after the separator character /, followed by what we want to replace it with, and another /. Now, if I just do this, it'll replace the first occurrence on each line. And in this particular file, there may only actually be one occurrence per line. But if you had multiple occurrences per line and you want to replace every single one of them, you can add a G character at the end. And that will replace every occurrence on every line. So let's go ahead and do that. Now you can see on line 384, it says Punched Tape Media instead of Bloomberg. Note that searching and replacing only affects the current line. It doesn't search on other lines. If you'd like to search and replace again, you have to search for your next occurrence of Bloomberg in this case, and then you'd have to repeat the replacement, which is done by the ampersand command. If you'd like to search and replace on all lines, then you do the command %, and that will replace all of them on all lines. And it shows you there were 3 substitutions on 3 different lines. Let's go ahead and exit out of this file without saving the changes. And let's take a look at another case that I'd like to show. So let's say you're editing a source file and you're somewhere and you'd like to know where your matching brace is for your open or close brace. If you go and select the cursor on top of one of the braces and press the % key, it'll switch back and forth between the 2 matching braces. So in this case, I can switch back and forth between these 2. That's incredibly handy when you have incredibly long functions, which hopefully you don't have too many of, but inevitably there are always long functions. So this is incredibly helpful. It also works with parentheses and with square brackets. And with that, you now know the Vim basics. I'd recommend you take a few minutes to open a text file yourself in Vim and try out some of the things discussed in this video, because I think you'll have a much easier time remembering these commands after you use them a bit yourself. You should now be able to open, save, and exit from a file, search and replace, and do some basic editing.